All right, today I'm going to talk to you guys about one of my favorite topics. My dream job would be estuarine ecology. Here's a little handout. So estuarine ecology is basically the region or the area where freshwater meets saltwater comes together. They're among the most productive ecosystems on the earth. They provide habitat, they provide nursery areas, they provide food, and things like that. So some of the species that we found that we're going to find in estuaries, especially the ones that I'm going to talk about today, are going to be redfish, largemouth bass, bull sharks. You've got freshwater and saltwater species of bait fish, like blue herons, stuff like that, fiddler crabs, and bowfin and blue crab. So that's just a little handout, just basically what you can find. So here is what an estuary is. So you see, like, this is just supposed to be a farm and signifying the pollution runoff that we'll talk about in a little bit. But here's the rivers. This is your ocean. This would be the strip of land, like the Outer Banks. And this is where the saltwater inlets are. So this would be your estuary, where the freshwater meets saltwater. We're going to talk about specifically about like the Currituck Sound, the James River, and stuff like this. Like I said, this would be Back Bay, this would be the ocean, and this would be, you know, the estuary itself, where it blends. All right, so these estuaries are extremely productive ecosystems. They're nutrient rich. A lot of the backwaters are usually tannic and very acidic because of just years and years of runoff and pollutants getting trapped in areas, and then the sediments bury it. So the purpose and the importance, these ecosystems support like a strong commercial fishing for seafood and things like that, and it also for, you know, just personal fishing, things like that, water, any kind of water, like boating, stuff like that. Sailboats, there's a lot of sailboats in these that you'll see in these estuaries. So they filtrate water. There's pollutant runoff that comes through from like phosphorus and stuff from your agricultural. Those pollutants, like we said earlier, the sediment pushes it down, it filters it, it buries it, and it doesn't allow it to get out to ocean. It does the same thing with heavy metals and things like that. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration describes an estuary as the place where organisms interact with other organisms in saltwater and freshwater. So you're going to have birds and sharks and freshwater fish interacting with freshwater submergent grass and saltwater submergent grass. So the Chesapeake Bay is the largest estuary in the country and receives fresh water from about 150 different streams and lakes. The James River begins in the Appalachians and runs all the way out into the ocean. The salinity changes come from tide, wind, rainfall, and flow. Are we at 5 minutes already? Okay. The nursery habitat, they are a nursery habitat. So they facilitate living organism interactions in that nursery where species can go in and spawn, lay their eggs, rest, eat, go on about their migratory patterns. Blue crabs rely heavily on these habitats. Like I said earlier, they struggle with surviving with pollutants and stuff in those kind of streams. So they find places where fresh water doesn't come in, is where they like to go in, and then they drop their eggs and things like that. Some of the birds you'll see are blue herons, which we see them everywhere. They're up in the shallow water standing, looking for bait fish. Bald eagles, osprey, waterfowl, and the reason the birds come to these places is because of all the different emergent grasses. The biodiversity has been increased through conservation, are shell beds and the shell beds and then the oyster beds. The economic value is extremely important because they provide sustainable commercial fishing to be able to feed the entire region of the East Coast. They're starting to get a lot of tourism down here because a lot of the professional fishermen are starting to see how big these fish are growing in these weird environments, how these largemouth are just growing huge in these crazy environments, along with other fish. So the EPA talks about the number one, I guess, negative factors that impacts these estuaries is pollution. It's fertilizers, runoffs, just any kind of pollution you can think of too, like wrappers, things like that. Because of how nutrient rich this is, algae blooms start to occur as soon as the temperature starts getting warm, like summer and all that. So restoration, so scientists have monitored the quality and have been able to get Back Bay restored, whereas the saltwater came in and ruined it from a hurricane, and they've actually gotten that back where they maintain it between 10 and 15%. That way, saltwater and freshwater can live, if that makes just plain and simple sense. And the conservation success has actually been excellent because when I was down there, they're winning tournaments in these areas. The fish are huge. There's bait fish everywhere, cast nets. And you can use your cast net and just find bait anywhere. But so these estuaries are extremely important to our country as commercial fishing, things like that. It also is a place for animals to raise their young, grow, and keep our ecosystems biodiverse. So, do you guys have any questions?
No, it's very interesting.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah, that's great.